Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast, a channel for film reviews, discussions, and everything in between. I'm Chris Garner, joined with the co-host George Aldridge, and on today, for our main show, we're going to be bringing you another one of our top 10 lists. And to be honest, for this week, in all honesty, we were kind of lost for ideas on what to do for our main show because, cinema releases have started to slow down a bit, but hopefully they'll be picking up in a few weeks' time and we can get back to the new films with the reviews coming out all the time. But we're going to be bringing you our top 10 list on our favourite comedies. This one, probably out of all the lists, was the hardest one to do. There's a lot I've had to leave off and sort of rearrange around, but we'll be getting into that later on in the show. First off, we're going to be talking about the week in movie news. We've got quite a bit of news to get through, so we're going to power through it. So, George, what have we got first?
The first bit of news is that the official Star Wars Instagram account did a 15-second sort of teaser for the new film. There was two new shots which were incredible shots. There was a bit of new John Williams score which sounded awesome as well, and it was quite frankly the best 15-second teaser I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I honestly, whoever is behind the marketing of this film, just take a bow. Like how they are doing the marketing for this film is absolutely fantastic, and I don't think I've actually seen really a trailer that's 15 seconds long for like a film this big. I've thought when it initially released that it was sort of a teaser for a new trailer that will be coming out in a few weeks. I thought it was done to announce that, but it was really just sort of its own thing, wasn't it? It just sort of like dropped on Instagram and everyone was talking about it for a bit. And you're right, it doesn't really show us anything new, but the final shot really gives context to a big bit from the original teaser trailer. It's the shot where Kylo Ren's sort of like skulking through the forest. It's night time and it's snowing. He ignites the lightsaber, and now we see John Boyega's character Finn ignite the blue lightsaber. Which, me being a hardcore Star Wars fan as I am, I was like pausing through this video every second, and I was checking if that is indeed Anakin and Luke Skywalker's blue lightsaber from the previous 6 films, and I think it is, isn't it? I think a lot of people have confirmed that it is. So, however he gets a hold of that from its fate from Empire Strikes Back when it falls down the reactor shaft, we'll have to wait and see. I'm glad that that shot though isn't technically. Well, I guess it is a spoiler in terms of that we now have context for that scene. We know that that's going to be a fight between them. Um, but it was announced on the Drew Struzan poster that Finn was going to have a blue lightsaber, and I think he's almost striking exactly the same pose from that poster as he is in this. So that wasn't really a big spoiler. The opening shot was the one that was in it was an international TV spot, I think, wasn't it? It was sort of like another angle to the shot we'd already seen in the proper trailer. We get a reaction shot from Ray and BB-8. And that was about it, really. But in terms of the score, as you said, the John Williams score, I really hope that this is in the new film. It's sort of an awesome variation on the Darth Vader Imperial March. And, although Vader's gone and the Empire's technically gone, we've got the First Order in this one now. That song has to be in it. It's a part of Star Wars, and if that wasn't in the new movie, I'd be really upset.
Yeah, and I think when I first heard it, I was like, "This sounds like Pirates of the Caribbean," and there's that bit in Dead Man's Chest when they're at the what's it called? At the start of it, when they're poking the eyes out of the birds and stuff.
Oh, that prison
It's
thing,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it sounded exactly like that, but obviously it's not that. It sounded a lot cooler. But
Mm,
with the lightsaber stuff, I think the way they've done it is because of that D23 poster. That's the confirmation that Finn's your Jedi. And I think by
mm.
having just that visual bit of evidence, it's kind of like, oh no, this wasn't a spoiled poster because some people genuinely thought it was a spoiler. Here it is. This is official. He is a Jedi. Now watch. So it was tactically perfect. I mean, there's only 2 new shots, but it gives away so much. But it was just all in all, like, it was great to see, and I love the fact they didn't have to plaster saying there's a new trailer coming out next week. They just kind of did it for the hell of it.
Yeah, definitely. And from this trailer, they still need to sell me that Finn can be this badass Jedi, but I think what they'll probably be doing is, and this is all speculation at this point. I think that in the first movie, it's going to follow the same pattern as Luke did in the original trilogy. He's going to start out as sort of the naive, sort of farm boy kind of character. Obviously, he's not going to be a farm boy in this, but that same kind of timid, sort of courageous character, and then the second one he's going to develop his powers more, and then the third one he's going to be an all-out badass. And I think that this is probably how this one will go down. Really, in the original, Luke didn't do much Jedi stuff. You know, he ignited the lightsaber, but aside from that, he was just sort of on the quest and flying spaceships and stuff like that. So I think in this one they're really going to push for him to be, the new Jedi. And just from this trailer alone, it's got me even more hyped. And as you said, it was like for 15 seconds, it was like the best way to spend 15 seconds. And then our next bit of news, moving on to Marvel this time, surprise, surprise. We got a few sort of artist drawings of the teams from Captain America Civil War. I think you said, didn't you, that Marvel are starting to take this picture down? I don't know if it was leaked or something like that, but so far the teams we've got on Iron Man's side, obviously led by Iron Man. On his team, we've got War Machine, Black Panther, The Vision, and Black Widow. And then on Captain America's side, we've got Falcon, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, and what's the girl's name again? It's Sue. Is it Sue Carter?
Yeah, it's basically Peggy Carter's daughter, and I think they are going that way. So
Yeah, you see now. I mean, it's a solid enough looking team. There are some on here that have been rumoured that aren't actually on this picture. Like, for example, Spider-Man for ages has been sort of rumoured that he's going to appear in this film. Some think it will be in an after-credit scene. Others think he'll make a cameo in the film because he plays such a massive part in the story in the graphic novels. We don't know. I'm sure that they'll probably get him in the film somehow. I think even I think it was Ant-Man, wasn't it? Had like a really subtle sort of reference to a Spider-Man character. But obviously they probably just don't want to put him on the picture now because people will just be losing their minds and thinking about Spider-Man rather than focusing on the actual story, which is this Civil War. It's a great picture. Absolutely love the artwork, and I think if we're sort of just looking at this from like a team perspective, I think that the teams are pretty evenly matched, I would say. It's interesting because this is going to be the first appearance of Black Panther, which is quite unlike Marvel. Usually they have a film dedicated to the character to set them up, like they've just done with Ant-Man, and the Vision was introduced in Avengers 2. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a sort of tease as to what's to come for when the Black Panther movie properly rolls around.
yeah, and I think seeing Black Panther was kind of cool because there's a promo out a few months back. But I love the way he looks on this. But with the Spider-Man stuff, is spot on. You don't want to reveal it. The way I'm seeing it is, I think it'll be a lot like the Vision where who's glimpsed at in one of the trailers. And I've kind of
Yeah.
got this feeling that the first trailer will finish with the spider costume being revealed. Whether or not they follow the comics, because in the Civil War comic, there's a story with well, sorry, not story. Spider-Man gets Iron Man makes him a almost iron spider suit, and it's so overpowered, and then he eventually reverts back to the normal one. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do then, especially with casting someone so young.
Definitely, and I mean, this isn't really news from this week, but that picture that was released from I think it was D23, wasn't it, of Bucky and Falcon running towards the camera.
Oh yeah,
I love the memes already that have been started to be created from that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get a trailer very very soon. We'll probably get one alongside the new Star Wars film. I would think they're both obviously owned by Disney, and this rolls around April, isn't it? I think it's early April, the same sort of time that Marvel bring their big movies out. So definitely looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they pull off a story of this scale on the big screen in like a 2 hour 20-minute movie. So it's definitely exciting. And then our next bit of news, it's sort of a DVD release that's coming out later this year. The Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies Extended Edition. There's been a trailer released for it, which is for the Fathom screening, which is going to release all three extended versions over a 3-day period, I think it is, towards the end of the year. Battle of the Five Armies Extended Edition is released in November and has been given an R-rated certificate. This is most likely probably down to intense violence, and I've been following the news for the extended editions quite closely for each one. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and obviously when they were all released, they all came out in extended editions, so we knew it was going to happen with The Hobbit as well. And I love seeing the new scenes that are put in and sort of how it fleshes stuff out or develops stuff, or in the case of The Hobbit, alters the scene completely. From the trailer, we only get a few quick shots. We get a scene where The character of Bard's running over the rooftops in Lake Town, and Smaug's attacking him. We get a shot of Legolas doing more crazy, over-the-top CGI filled action, which I could probably do without. The character of Dane Ironfoot is seen on when he's first introduced. He's got an army of dwarves on the back of giant mountain goats, which charge down, and the elves fight the dwarves in that scene. And I think that's mostly it, to be honest. We get a few more shots of elves and orcs and all stuff like that. So I think mostly what the scenes are going to be like in this is just extended battle sequence stuff. I know that this isn't shown in this trailer or anything, but I know that there's a scene meant to be put into the extended cut, which is going to be Thorin's funeral at the end of the film. And I honestly think that all that stuff's definitely needed. Like, I want to see the more emotional, character-driven stuff it put back into this film, because I think, especially in the ending, it was like Peter Jackson saw all the criticism he got for Return of the King, and that it had like 5 endings and it just went on and on. So for The Hobbit, he purposely cut actual plot out of it. Like, we never knew what happened to the Arkenstone. We never really got much resolution with Bard or Dane or the dwarves or anything like that. So I think that this extended cut's going to rectify a lot of those problems. It's going to be 20 minutes longer, so I think that will push the running time to about 163, 164 minutes in total. But it'll be interesting to see the R-rated cut. Oh, there's also a big scene that was in the first couple of trailers, which wasn't in the film, that's going to be in there, which is the chariot chase down the ice with the dwarves and the wargs and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see all the new scenes when it comes out in November. I'm always an avid collector of these extended editions when they come out, and it'll be interesting to see how the R-rated version, changes the film and how extreme the violence is in it.
Um, the description of that just kind of felt like
Yeah,
it's the Hobbit. There's it's already like action fatigue, and it just seems like more action. I mean, but
especially Legolas.
I was thinking though, I thought Legolas would be the highlight, but Bard in Lake Town, that's kind of the only book I read of the Middle Earth stuff is The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I know for a while that Bard's not in Lake Town, so that'll just anger me, and it's just gonna be like I already
Well,
hated that film. I think I can't see it again, even if it is rated R.
well, I mean, it's going to be in the scene where Bard kills the dragon, so that's from the book. But I think that he just wanted more action in there. I think there's rumours there's going to be a scene where in the first few Hobbit films, like with Girion and stuff like that. I'm completely nerding out now. I apologise. He gets on this sort of like big wind lance and like fires the black arrows from that. And it's weird in the film because if you watch them all back to back, in Desolation, Bard says that he's going to try and fire the black arrow from this big sort of like wind lance thing, and then all of a sudden in the third movie he just didn't use it, and he was trying to fire it from like this random like wooden bell tower thing. I think there's going to be a scene where Smaug destroys the wind lance, so he can't use it and he has to improvise. So stuff like that I think will tighten the film up a bit more. But as you said, like the film already had way too much action. Legolas already detracted loads from the film. I'm not going to go into like all my thoughts on The Hobbit because that could be a review on its own for me. But if I think about stuff that needed to be in this film, it needed to be sort of like more character moments. It needed to be more emotion. It needed to be more resolution of the actual plot. I don't need to see Legolas hanging upside down on a bat, slashing like orcs and knocking them down like a chain of dominoes. Like I don't need to see that.
I have massively confused Bard with that big wolf thing from the second one, and that randomly appears for 10 seconds in the third one.
Bayorn, the guy who
That's the
turns into
one.
the bear.
I was thinking that
Yeah.
I was like, why is there a bear running across rooftops? Yeah, Bard is Nick Evans. Yeah, that was a bit of a cock up, but yeah,
No, I was like, Bard in Lake Town. I was like, that's like his biggest character moment in the
that's the
whole
thing.
series.
That's the main thing. I was like, Jesus, that's how little I know the names. I mean,
Yeah.
I know my Star Wars stuff, but Middle Earth is just like, I like Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit I just couldn't. It is, in the words of my friend who used to get excited when we used to troll him saying there was a Hobbit trailer out every week for about 3 years.
Oh, that's just cruel.
I know, it was brilliant though. We used to like disguise the link saying Hobbit trailers. Well, to him, his words were, "The Hobbit is what the prequels are to me," and I text him back saying, "No, mate, because I like the prequels and you don't like the Hobbit."
Yeah. I think there are a lot of comparisons, honestly, to the prequels. I don't think they're that bad. I think there are two good films in there amongst three, and that's basically the shortest review I can give in this. But going back to your point about Bayorn, he's going to get a lot more scenes in it as well. I hope, because he had like what, a whole 8 seconds in that third movie. He was sort of airdropped from the Eagles, turned into a bear, and that was it. We never really saw him get to do much. So I think it will make the film a better film overall, but these films already are way too bloated, and there's scenes like Legolas that could have been devoted to other stuff. But anyway, I've harped on this bit of news way too long, sort of just geeking out about Middle Earth and all stuff like that. We'll get on to our last bit of news before we move on to the new trailers that came out this week. The first picture of the new Assassin's Creed movie has been released, and I think it looks absolutely awesome. I think just from this picture, this looks like they are completely doing it right. They've got the look down. Fassbender's a fantastic actor, and I'm sure he's going to be great in this film too. And it wasn't until a few days ago, actually, watching like the Macbeth trailer and all stuff like that, that I realised that it's going to be the same director, and I think that Macbeth, and we're going to talk about more of this in a bit, looks absolutely awesome, and the direction and everything in it. So when I found out that he was doing Assassin's Creed, it's got me even more excited for this film, and also the fact that it's not going to follow the plot of the games. It's going to be set in the same universe as the video game series. There's going to be a few Easter eggs to the games from that, but it's going to be an original character. It's going to be a new setting that we haven't seen in the games. I think it's set in Spain. I can't exactly remember the exact date it's set. Marion Cotillard's in it as well. She's also in Macbeth. I think this could be shaping up to be well, I'm trying to think of any other good video game movies that have come out, and I'm really struggling. But I think this could be one of the best. And then obviously with this coming out, we've got there's a Minecraft movie, there's a Warcraft movie, there's a Jack and Daxter one. No, sorry, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper. So it looks like video game movies are really starting to amp up in the next few years, and hopefully, I think this comes out next December, I want to say, or
Yeah,
is it? Yeah, it does. Oh, that's going up against Star Wars. Then good luck with that. Um, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So I have to wait to a trailer. Pictures can be deceiving, but just from the look of him, I think they're getting it completely right.
yeah. I mean, Assassin's Creed was that I love the first one. I like the second. Then they kind of blew it in its face by having like a billion different types of assassins. So I kind of let go after there. But
Yeah,
it is one of them films which you can look at and say, sorry, one of them games that you can look at and say that would make an amazing film or TV show. And I think they're going to nail it. And I like the fact that they're doing the Spanish stuff. They're keeping the same universe. I'm sure there'll be a few clever little Easter eggs nodded in, but hopefully we get a good first Assassin's Creed film. But I mean, Fassbender's been attached to it for so long. It's clearly a passion project for someone of his caliber to genuinely keep, because it got delayed. Must have been 4 or 5 times. Someone like him to keep, sticking to it. He's clearly got a lot of faith, and I hope it works out for him.
yeah, and as you're saying about the games, like I'm a big fan of this series. I've followed it since the first one, which I think came out in like 2007 or something like that. But like you, I played two, and then they bought out two other ones after that called it was Brotherhood and Revelations, I think, which were okay. And then it was really when three came out, I played that, really didn't care for it. Four, Black Flag was good, the pirate one, and then since then they're really sort of running the name into the ground. They're bringing out a new game every year, or even two games a year sometimes, and there's even a new one coming out. But I think it does have the potential to sort of be a franchise like this, especially in films. You're going to see like all new historical settings and everything like that, and it'll be interesting for like audiences, like film goers, to see this if they haven't played the games and something, and see how they react to it and the plot like that. I think it does have potential to really take off, but we'll have to see how the film turns out. I'm sure we'll probably get a teaser trailer sometime soon, but as we say, it's still over a year away yet, so we may have to wait a bit on that. And speaking of trailers, and speaking of the director of Assassin's Creed, we'll move on to our trailer talk now. We'll kick off with the new trailer for Macbeth. This is the second trailer that came out. This came out today. And I'll just sort of echo my points of what I've said on the trailer before. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare, and Macbeth's one of my favourite plays of his. I've seen loads of different versions, but there's never really been one of this scale on the big screen before. The acting looks incredible. Set design, cinematography, costumes, everything like that. And then you look at the talent that's involved with it. You've got Fassbender in the lead role. You've got Marion Cotillard. You've got David Thewlis, who's one of my favourite actors. He really needs to do more stuff because he's great. Um, so just everything like that. I know that when we were sort of like looking through the films that are coming out this year, you found the running time for it and said that it's just sits at under 2 hours, which I was a little confused by, because by the looks of the trailer, it looks like they're going for the full Shakespeare language in this, and I was sort of expecting them to do the entire play. But I understand that theatre and film are two very different mediums, and whilst the character could stand on stage and spout like a 20-minute monologue and you'd be fine with it, you can't really do that in the film. So I think it's going to be a stripped down version, but it will still tell the complete story. And yeah, it looks, the battle scenes look incredible as well. I know that battles do take place in Macbeth, but there's never really been a film to show it to the full capacity as you can now, and it looks brilliant. It almost looks like sort of Braveheart style fighting. So really, really looking forward to this film. It's probably next to Star Wars is one of my most anticipated films of the year, actually.
Yeah, I mean, when they announced this, I was pretty excited because I'm not a big Shakespeare fan, and I was kind of there like, okay, we'll get a finally Macbeth. Then the started casting at Maricos had very good, Fassbender brilliant, love his work. And then I remember the first two posters came out, and it's like that is Macbeth, that's the face of it. And
Yeah.
then it was really odd because I was like, when's this coming out? Because I'm sure they were filming this in 2013, and that's 2 years. And then obviously it premiered at Cannes this year, a very
Mm.
good reception. One of my friends saw it there, and I've been waiting and waiting. Finally, we're going to get it in October, and it just looks amazing. Obviously, I've heard of someone that I'm really into similar films of, and he said it's outstanding. You'll love it, so I'm really looking forward to it. But definitely, I mean, compared to the end of the year, minus Star Wars, there's maybe two or three films I'm really, really looking forward to, and this is one of them because it's very rare to get a film like this. And as me and you kind of spoke about the other day off air, this could kind of launch this like Shakespeare, not film universe, but you could
Mm.
get a slew of reboots, a bit like the sort of Disney stuff they're doing.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. I really want to see this sort of Shakespeare cinematic universe. I think that would be epic, and most of the stories are epic in scale and could be done really, really, really well. So I think that that's definitely a possibility. But I think that Macbeth is, I don't know if it's sort of made for the mainstream. I think this film's definitely trying to sort of get it out there and picked up on more people. But I think that with a film like Macbeth or Shakespeare in general, it's going to have a very sort of niche audience who are going to go and see it. I don't really know what films it's up against that weekend it comes out. I'd have to check that. But I hope it does well, and it deserves to by the looks of it because it looks fantastic. And then moving on to our next trailer, we've got our second trailer for Ridley Scott's The Martian. It's kind of annoying because when the first trailer came out, I saw that everyone was saying how much it sort of spoilt the film. It gave away too much. All it needed was like a quick teaser to sort of get you in the setting and what the plot's about, and that's it. It didn't need to show all aspects of the film. But it was annoying. I can't remember what film it was for. It may have been Mission Impossible actually. And they showed the trailer for it there, and I was like, oh well, I've got to watch it now. But I watched this second trailer, and honestly, I thought this one spoiled more about the film than the first trailer did, which is kind of weird because I know a lot of people are saying that this one isn't as bad as the first trailer. But if I'm looking at it on its own, I think it looks like a great film. We've spoken about this before, but it's kind of weird to see um, Matt Damon sort of in this same role that he was in Interstellar. It almost looks like it could be a prequel or like a side project or something like that. But all the performances look great. Jeff Daniels is fantastic, and it's great to see him doing more serious acting roles. I'm used to seeing him in comedies and stuff like that, so it's good to see him. It's good to see him in more serious roles. Jessica Chastain as well. So I think it's a brilliantly cast movie. Trailer 2 still got me hyped for it. Definitely one I'm going to see, and I'm hoping, really, really hoping that this will sort of be a return to form for Ridley Scott because he hasn't exactly been knocking it out of the park recently with most of his recent films. But it looks good. It looks promising. So I'm definitely going to go and see this one.
Yeah, same. I mean, I had a lot of people when it was kind of announced. I was excited that yes, we're gonna get. I heard it's a very famous book, and it's amazing. They were happy it got announced. Then the kind of Ridley Scott train was like, oh, he's not done a lot recently. That's good. And it really looks like it's going to be good. I mean, you could say that about Prometheus, but Prometheus was always going to not work because when they say a week before the film comes out, this isn't the Alien prequel, then you
Yeah.
know the whole thing's gone tits up. But it looks great, and I mean, if the source material is as good as they say, then really, I know sounds like very like naive, but if the source material is so good, then it should be easy to nail. That's the
Mm.
kind of way I sometimes see these films. I know you can clearly get them wrong, but if it's of this caliber and it's about one bloke and them saving him, well, so it seems to what we know, as people who haven't read the books, then I'm hoping it's great because it does look it, and it's kind of nice. I mean, when Matt Damon turned up in Interstellar, I was like, oh my god, Matt Damon, just like everyone else did.
Mm.
And you're right, it does look like a prequel to it, but I'm excited because with Interstellar, with probably The Martian, it's kind of feels like we get in our sci-fi's, your Star Wars, your Marvels, that sort of big extreme blockbuster. But I do quite like the traditional sci-fi that you used to see a lot in the '60s. So it's kind of nice to see one or two mainstream films returning to it.
Yeah, and it very much sort of reminds me of Apollo 13 a little bit. It looks like a rescue mission. Obviously, that's what the plot's about, to get him back to Earth and like race against time, everything like that. So it's definitely going to be one I think I'm going to enjoy. I think you said that you've got some friends, haven't you, who've read the book and said that don't worry, the trailers have spoiled nothing. So if that's the case, then that's good because I hate it when trailers spoil the entire film. And there'll be a trailer I'll be talking about in a minute that I think spoils the entire film. But yeah, definitely looking forward to it and can't wait till it comes out later this year. Another trailer that came out. This was a short teaser one, really. We got a teaser trailer for Kung Fu Panda 3, and I've said before in like that animated list video and stuff like that. I absolutely adore Kung Fu Panda. The first time when I saw the first film, it was one of those that I really didn't want to see, but I think I was with a friend whose little brother wanted to check it out, and we really didn't want to go and see it, but we had to begrudgingly go along to it. And right from the opening scene, we were just completely on board with it. Absolutely fell in love with that movie, and the second one's brilliant as well. So I've always been looking forward to the third one. I think it was delayed actually. I think it was meant to be coming out this December, but obviously we know what big film's coming out then, so it's been pushed back to January, which is fair enough. And speaking of that big film that it sort of avoided, they do a really sort of neat Star Wars homage to it. You get the trailer opens up with Darth Vader sounding breath. It's Bryan Cranston. He's like climbing up a flight of stairs. He's out of breath, and then he says to Poe, "I am your father." And it's kind of weird. Like everyone, as you said, I think you said this when you first saw the trailer. Everyone seems to be getting in on this Star Wars hype. So I thought it was a really cool idea. I thought it was a really clever little teaser thing. Obviously, that's probably not going to be in the movie. We'll get a full trailer later on, but just little things like that. It just is all the reasons why I love Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the first one a few years ago and I quite liked it. I didn't see the second one, but the trailers for this have looked good so far, and that although it's a 30-second one, it was pretty cool seeing the little Star Wars nod because any naive person will probably think that's an Episode 7 trailer if they see it on TV and
Mm.
it's shock is actually Kung Fu Panda, but then they'll still think of Star Wars, so they'll see it anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah, and there's a lot of trailers that do this. It's not a particularly new thing. I think, for example, the live action Scooby Doo film that came out years and years ago in the 2000s. I remember the trailer for that. It was setting it up to be a Batman film, and it was playing sort of like the Danny Elfman sounding Batman music, and like Scooby Doo's silhouette in the night looked like Batman's ears. And I remember thinking, I think it was around the time that Batman Begins was meant to be coming out, and then obviously you get the reveal it's Scooby Doo. So the trailers have been doing this for ages and ages, but just I think it's just the fact that it's Star Wars and Kung Fu Panda, which are two things I absolutely love. So it was cool seeing them together. It was a neat little teaser, and I can't wait for the full one when it comes out. The next trailer is one I actually just watched before we hit record. Knock Knock, which is an Eli Roth directed horror film, I guess, or thriller starring Keanu Reeves. You'd seen the original trailer before me. I literally had never heard of this film until I watched the trailer. From the looks of it, it's sort of like two women turn up at Keanu Reeves' house. Keanu Reeves is a happily married man. They're sort of like all wet from the rain, and they ask to like come in if they can use the phone. And then it like turns into like this weird sort of hostage slash like creepy stalker thriller situation where these girls are like obsessed with Keanu Reeves and wanna, I don't know whether it's implied that they want to kill his wife and his family so that they can have possession of him. It's really weird, and I'm guessing from the tone that he wants to sort of go for that. Is it a horror? Is it a comedy? Is it a dark comedy? And I think it is intended to be a dark comedy. Um, just a really weird concept, but I absolutely love Keanu Reeves, so I think this will be one to watch. Although the fact that Eli Roth has directed it has sort of made me worried a bit because I'm not a huge fan of his work, to be honest.
Uh, I saw the first trailer a few months ago and I was there like, what the fuck have I just seen? And I was
Yeah.
still like that on the new one. I was like, I don't really know what they can do. It's basically the same trailer with maybe 30 seconds of new footage. It
Right.
kind of the way I'm seeing it, Tarantino gave us maybe a bit of funding, and Eli Roth's gone off and made his little dream, and that dream's going to be a 13-year-old boy's dream, and it's just one of them where it's just going to be hilariously bad, I think, but it's going to be like one of them kind of ridiculous, over the top, out there classics bad. Do you know what I mean? That a
Yeah.
lot of people, it will have a cult following in 10 years. You just know it will. But it was just hilarious seeing a film like this.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things about it is Keanu Reeves in it. I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan, even if he's not in a good film, even if he doesn't turn in a good performance. The guy's just so damn likable that you don't care. Um, and it looks like how he's playing it in this film. He's saying these lines that are completely ridiculous. He's in this completely ridiculous situation, but he's playing it so serious and playing it so straight that it just makes it even better. So I don't know if it's one I'll see. I don't know if we'll have like this will be one of our main reviews that we bring out for the show, but it might be one to like catch on Netflix or something. Or if it does pick up sort of good reviews and like a cult following, then I'll probably check it out. But yeah, it's a really weird one. And then moving on from the silliness of that trailer, we get into the more serious Oscar bait, Oscar cannon fodder kind
Mm.
of movies. This is The Danish Girl, and I've forgotten the name of the director. It's something
Tom
Hooper, isn't
Hooper,
it?
I
Tom
think.
Hooper. Yeah, he directed Les Miserables and stuff like that. King's Speech as well. And it very much looks like, in tone with those movies, that it's going for the Oscar. You've got Eddie Redmayne in the lead role again, fresh off of the Theory of Everything hype and the Oscar win for that. Um, and really, from this trailer, it's not a film I'm going to be interested in seeing again if we have to see it for the channel. Or I always try and catch up with the Oscar films if I can, but they are released all around the same time, and it's very difficult to watch all of them. I tend to like go back like a year after and catch them. But from the trailer, it's the kind of trailers I absolutely hate. It's like the entire film, the entire story condensed into about 2 minutes or something like that, 2.5 minutes, and I feel like I have seen the entire trailer. It's the trailer itself has a three-act structure. You get, I think it's based on a true story. The guy who's with his girlfriend or his wife, and she enjoys painting, and then he discovers that he enjoys wearing ladies' clothing, and then he sort of has this crisis of identity and thinks that he wants to be a woman. And the trailer really covers all of this. It covers the struggle in the middle with this, and then his acceptance at the end. So I know exactly what the film's going to be like. I'm sure it's going to have pretty good performances. I've forgotten the name of the woman who's in the lead, but she played the robot in Ex Machina, which I thought was a fantastic film. And I thought she was great in that. So I'm sure. Performance wise, I think it's going to be fantastic. Directing wise, it's going to be fantastic. It's just not a film that I would rush out to the cinema to see, but I'm sure that it's going to get nominations, and I don't know if it will get a win because there is some great films coming out this year that are probably going for the Oscars as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Redmayne gets another Oscar nomination from this.
Yeah, I think when I saw the trailer for this, it was kind of like, oh, here we go, Oscar bait. Let's just see it. And then I think I was with you when we listened to it. I was there like, for God's sake, it's just gonna be, there's Oscar baiting and then there's Oscar whoring, which is this, and it's like, okay, it's gonna be good. I know it's probably gonna be very well made, but I'm just gonna hate it. And if someone says to me right now, "Oh, Jay, do you want to go watch The Danish Girl?" I'll get dressed and I'll walk to my local shop, buy a Danish pastry, so I'd rather have this, and just goes back to bed.
Yeah,
Bec-
definitely.
because it's there like, oh yeah, do you want to watch Danish Girl? No, mate, because Star Wars is out. I'd rather watch Star Wars 7 for the 10th time than watch it 9 times and see this.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on the release date of this particular one, but I mean, if this follows Star Wars, then yeah, no. Or the only film I'm going to be seeing like on repeat viewings day after day, week after week is going to be Star Wars. If I do fancy something new, I'm sure there'll be plenty of other films that come out around that time, so this will probably be on the bottom of my list of ones to check out. As I say, it doesn't look a bad film, but it sort of looks like the best way I can describe it is like a BBC like drama film or something that
Hmm.
comes on. You know what I mean? It's got very much got that tone to it. King's Speech had a very similar tone as well, but I absolutely love King's Speech. I thought that was a brilliant film, but I think this will be this year's equivalent of like The Imitation Game. I love The Imitation Game, but it's not a film that's really cinema worthy. It doesn't feel cinematic enough to rush out and watch it. It very much feels like a sort of made for TV BBC drama or something like that. I'm sure it's going to be fine, but and I probably will check it out at some point. But like the Theory of Everything, I still haven't got around to watching that yet. Like last year's backlog of Oscar films, I'm still trying to work through, and I'm getting there slowly. But it's just one that I haven't got all that much hype for really. And that finishes our news really. The last bit of news that I'm going to cover is that director Wes Craven sadly passed away the other day. He was 76 years old. Um, Real shame that he's gone, especially like with people who are fans of horror and in the horror community, stuff like that. Um, real icon, really. He directed and created Nightmare on Elm Street, the Scream franchise. He directed, I think it was the seventh Nightmare on Elm Street movie as well, which was New Nightmare, which was when the series had sort of died. It was a sort of reboot of the series, still using the character Freddy Krueger, but took it in a different direction. When he started out his career, he did a couple of exploitation films called The Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes. He later directed the sequel Hills Have Eyes 2 as well. So, and they've since been remade, and well, even Nightmare on Elm Street's been remade, but each of those films have become a classic in their own right. And I'm not a huge fan of the Scream series. I remember seeing the first three. I still haven't seen the fourth one when they came out, and around the time I know it was a very new thing. Scream was a very self-referential film. It was very meta, I think the word is. It was sort of poking fun at the tropes of horror movies that have come out before then, and really no other film I want to say had done that before, especially in the horror genre. It was very tongue-in-cheek and poked fun at horror films like that, and then new films have come out since then that have tried to do the same thing, like Cabin in the Woods, which is another film I love. But just in terms of like the horror mascots and everything like that, like Freddy Krueger and Ghostface are two of the most iconic horror mascots you will find. Instantly recognizable, you know what films they're from. And Nightmare on Elm Street actually is a film I watched quite recently. I think I watched it about a year or two ago for the first time. Um, and it is one of my favourite horror films. It would easily be in my top 10, if not my top 5. It's a fantastic made movie. He came back on in terms of the writing side, I think, to write the third one, Dream Warriors, which, although isn't as good as the first one, the second one really took a huge misstep away from the franchise, and Wes Craven sort of brought it back with the script and everything like that. So it's a real shame he's gone because he was a great talent among the horror community and everything like that. And yeah, it's just a real shame that he's gone.
I know. I mean, I'm not the biggest of horror fans, and most people know that, but I've seen the first Scream and I enjoyed it, and it's one of them where if you just look at the filmography, if you look at the iconic everything that's come since that, he's almost the author, he's the man of the horror films, and it's just a shame to see it go, and it kind of came out of nowhere as well because I think he just finished filming a film recently. It was in the news, so it's a shame. I wonder if that'll be eventually released, but the if you can't look at that filmography, so he was almost the father of horror films, I'd say.
Definitely, and he's still got a great legacy behind him, and the Scream films will definitely be ones I think I'll go back and watch. I probably haven't seen them. I've only seen the first three once, and I probably watched them 10 years ago, maybe even past that. I watched them when I was really young. Um, so yeah, I mean, he leaves an immense legacy, and it's just a shame that he's gone. But now we're going to move into sort of the main segment of our show today, which is going to be our top 10 list of the top 10 of our top 10 favorite comedies of all time. There's no particular reason we've like bought this list out. There's no links to films that are coming out or anything like that. This was literally there is nothing new out of the cinema. We need to get a main show, but it's going to be an interesting one. We love doing these top 10 lists, and in all honesty, this is probably the toughest top 10 list I've ever had to put together. I don't know if you feel the same way. There's a lot of films on here. I always start off these lists when I'm creating them. I type out every single film I can think of. So I've typed out all my favourite comedy films. And then you begin the hard process of whittling it down to 5 and 3 honourable mentions. This was the toughest one I have to do because comedies are so weird. Like other films, if you're the favourite films of all time or comic book movies, I think they're a little bit easier to order in which ones you prefer overall. But with comedies are so different. Comedies come in like very different styles, and I do like a lot of styles of comedy, so it's difficult because each film has good moments to the point where, apart from my number one on my list, all the others are honestly totally interchangeable. Like, there's really no order of preference on this list. I love each one of these films. So, yeah, this was definitely the toughest list I've ever had to put together so far.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I my original list came to 40 for this. I went from my letterbox
Oh,
to,
Jesus.
and the ones I liked more than average were on here. And well, sorry, not, the ones I really liked were on this list. So I was 40. I was like, oh, I was expecting maybe 15. But so that struggled. But I eventually narrowed it down to 15. Then I eventually narrowed it down to the kind of five in the honourable mentions. Then there was almost one day of thinking, is that number five or is it an honourable mention? It was so hard, but I think with this, it's kind of like you can have animated comedies, you can have parody comedies, you can have rom coms, dramas. It's such an open genre, whereas comic book films, those open 99% of it's same with superheroes, and with them ones, I think, okay, I've got my favourites here that I thought of straight away. However, with them, you know your top one straight away off the top of your head. With
Mm.
comedies, it's so hard because it's like, oh my god, I love this so much, but then there's that, and they're very similar, they're very different, and it was an absolute nightmare putting this together. But I finally pieced it, and I'm actually quite interested with my final results. But it is definitely the toughest list I've ever done. Even my favourite films, I've always had my top like four or five.
Mm.
Whereas this, I've never done a comedy list. I just know I had a lot that I loved, and I struggled, but I finally got there.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. As I said, like, apart from my number one, really, I've never been asked like what to rank or list my favorite comedies. They're just sort of, oh, I love that comedy, oh, I like that one too. It's really difficult to put them in any kind of order, but it's going to be interesting because I don't think we've really ever talked in depth about comedy films. It always tends to be, we have a shared love for Star Wars and things like that, and all like the big summer movies, everything like that, comic book movies. But we've never really zoned in on comedy, so this is going to be interesting. We're about to see like what kind of comedies we're into, what kind of comedic taste we have. So yeah, we'll just jump in. I also just want to say before we start the list that these are our list of personal favourites. There are going to be comedy films on this list that are probably regarded as some of the best comedies in the world. There are loads of great ones we've missed off. Probably some films are better than the ones that are on my list, but this is comedy is subjective, and every film on this list, I just belly laugh at them all, and it's all down to personal preference. So there may be some on here that you won't see that are regarded as the best. It's just one of them. We're going for personal preference. So, George, why don't you kick us off with your number five pick?
My fifth pick was almost the hardest one. It's a bit of a cheat. It's a double header of 21 and 22 Jump Street. Uh,
Right.
they're both obviously incredibly new. That was the hardest bit. I was so and an hour, and I was going to honourable mention later. But I think with these films, they kind of brush with fresh air. You get your comedies like your Lethal Weapons and stuff. I've just realised I've just forgot about Lethal Weapon completely. Um, and it was just like the first time I saw 21 Jump Street, I loved it. I had so much fun. I know we're a bit different on it, but it was kind of the first time where I liked Channing Tatum. And it was one of the first times where I liked Jonah Hill. So it's kind of their chemistry, I think, and the film was just very funny for the time. Then you push on 2, 3 years, you get 20 Jump Street, and this is my favourite out of the two. And it
Mm,
was so funny. Ice Cube's hilarious, funnier than the first one. He's got more screen time. The whole film is self-referential. Did that comedy sequels are always crap. So they're kind of he's like Ice Cube's in his office. He's like, yeah, look at this. He goes, look how much more money we got. I'm wearing £1,000 shoes. You can't see under the table, and it's just brilliant. And even the plot itself, they take the piss out. It's similar, but it's just on a different level, and it's so funny. Then you've got the best credit sequence of all time, and I really hope they're saying 23 Jump Street will be the Men in Black crossover. If that goes ahead, that's probably going to be a better crossover than the Avengers, because the day that happens, it's going to be incredible. But yeah, I love these films, and they're probably the best comedies out of the past few years.
Yeah, 21 Jump Street's a weird one. It was a film that it came out in 2012, I believe, and everyone was talking about it. And at the time, I was not a Jonah Hill fan. I was definitely not a Channing Tatum fan. So it was just one I completely bypassed completely. Um, and then this was really recent. It was probably like last year or something like that, or even earlier in the year. One of my mates came over and he says, "Let's watch a comedy film." And I was like, right, you got what have you got? And he says like, I got 21 Jump Street. You ever seen it? I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to watch it, but I'll go for it. And also, I found it really enjoyable. Jonah Hill's. Really grown towards Jonah Hill now, especially with films like Wolf of Wall Street, and I think he got a cameo in Django Unchained as well. I think he's brilliant, and even Channing Tatum now. He's been dabbling in serious roles and stuff like that, and I think he has really progressed now as a comedic actor as well. Yeah, and I had a really just good time with the movie. I still haven't seen 22 Jump Street yet, actually, but everyone was talking about the whole self-referential thing, how it knows it's a sequel and stuff like that. So does it outright? Because with the first film, it's weird. Like it's taking itself seriously as an actual story. Things are actually happening, isn't it? So the second one, does it directly sort of like break the fourth wall and wink at the audience that it is just a film and it's referencing the fact that it's a sequel?
Yeah, it does it a bit. It's not like haha sequel, sequel, sequel. It's these really sly little digs, but it kind of works into its favor and it doesn't take you out of it too much. Whereas say we're a sequel, it kind of finishes. You know how 21 Jump Street finishes goes like, "You sons of bitches, you going to college." It kind of
Yeah.
finishes like, "You sons of bitches, you going to medical school." And then it's the little things where they might repeat one or two things, but it just works well. I mean, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, I think they did do actually, who did the Lego movie.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
they
Yeah.
did do it. Yeah, they definitely did. Sorry, I'm really doing the research. They were kind of saying before that because after the second one, it's like, what are you going to do next? There is no sequels, and then the crossover. But it's one of them where it's worth watching because it's interesting. It's almost like postmodern film in its own way, but it definitely ups the scale, it ups the humour, and it's very different from that first one.
I think you've probably seen this film a few more times than me. I've literally only watched it the once. It'd definitely be one I go back to though. And you mentioned Ice Cube as well, and he was just goddamn hilarious in this first movie. I'm sure he's better in the second one, as you said. But yeah, I'll have to go back and watch this one and also check out 22 Jump Street because I do think that Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, especially after seeing the Lego movie, are probably two of the best comedy writers in the business at the minute. Really looking forward to their future projects. I know that they are working on the new Star Wars, aren't they? The Han Solo
Yeah.
spin-off.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so like tonal wise, it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that. Maybe they'll make it more comedic, or maybe they'll still retain the quality of the original Star Wars, but like the one-liners and stuff in it are funny because we know that Han Solo's funny. So really looking forward to what they're going to be doing in the future. But yeah, I mean, if this is anything to go on, I think it's definitely sort of in safe hands. And right now we'll get into my number five pick. It is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and I guess I can sort of combine the sequel as well, When Nature Calls. Um, growing up, I was a huge, huge Jim Carrey fan, to the point where he was probably my favourite comedian around the time growing up. I grew up with all his films: Ace Ventura, The Mask, Liar Liar, Batman Forever, everything like that. And I think this year, 1994, was the year he had all. I think he had like four major hits to the point where it just propelled him into like the spotlight, and he was like the biggest comedian. I think he was the highest paid comedian as well at the time from all these films. And Ace Ventura was one that was on the TV all the time, and I think I had it recorded off the TV. And it was an interesting film because I don't know if you ever had this, if you ever recorded anything off the TV, but you'd get so used to watching that version, like you'd know where the ad breaks were, you'd know it scene by scene.
Yeah.
And I must have recorded it or something like early afternoon because I think this is a 12 and there's a bit of adult material in this one, and it would cut it out. And I think it wasn't until recently that I actually got it on DVD that there was loads of scenes I hadn't seen before, and I was like, is this an extended version, anything like that? It was like, no, it's just because when it's on the TV, they cut the film down for it. So it was I sort of like discovered this film again for the second time. But if I'm just looking at this film, this has got to be Jim Carrey at his absolute best. Just the look, it's so iconic with like the gelled up fringe and the sort of yellow Hawaiian shirt. It's brilliant, and I think at the time, it was the most, or one of the most, that an actor had ever had to be paid to come back for a sequel. Jim Carrey said before that he doesn't like coming back for sequels. He likes to do new characters, new films each time. He sort of broke that rule with the sequel to Ace Ventura and more recently Dumb and Dumber 2. But it's difficult to talk about a comedy other than the fact that it's funny, but it is just so funny. Just every single joke hits. Jim Carrey, when he's at his absolute zaniest, is just hilarious. They're so quotable, and they're on TV quite a lot actually. And they're just films that I can just sort of catch halfway through and just watch. They're still funny. They still hold up. And that was another thing that I was deciding about films on my list. Do they still hold up as comedies? And there may be some ones that I enjoyed as a kid and then I've watched them recently and be like, it's not as funny as I remember it, but this is absolutely one that I still love. The soundtrack's fantastic. Just I can remember so many scenes from this. My favourite from this movie is probably the bit where he goes back to his apartment and all the animals come out when they were in hiding. It's brilliant. If no one's checked it out, you've got to see it because it's definitely a cult film. I would say now. Jim Carrey is absolute best. Check out the sequel as well. It's a bit more zany. The first one takes itself a bit more seriously. So if I had to rate either of them, I think my favourite one is definitely the first one, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. But they're both fantastic films.
Yeah, I think with these, we had both of them on video when I was younger, but I haven't seen them since obviously videos, so I can't remember anything. They're always on ITV2, so I might catch a scene or something, but I just don't remember it enough, if you know what I mean. But obviously, it's all over Facebook as videos and stuff. The faces he pulls, the animal stuff. So it's one of them classics, and I think that's one of my sister's favourite comedy films as well. So she always loves it. But it's one of them where I do need to go back to it and see it sometime.
Oh, definitely.
And I'd say moving on from that, my number fourth pick, I was shocked this was so low down. Is the right? I'm just gonna go into details first. There's this
Sure.
film where it used to be on TV when we were younger, and for some bizarre reason, we never ever had it on DVD. No idea why. Whenever it was on TV, we'd go mental, and we'd all watch it like, "Oh my god, it's on TV." Then I ended up buying the DVD a few years ago, and it kind of felt wrong that we had it at home and stuff to watch
Mm.
any time. But it is the classic Zoolander. Um,
Oh, okay. I haven't seen this one, so you're gonna have to take the stage on this one.
that's fine. This is like the epitome. Ben Stiller. I know he's a bit older now, but 10 years ago when he was at his peak, I know this just before then 2001, but he was hilarious, and this was is the pinnacle of his career, where his stereotypes of the really dumb male model with him and Owen Wilson, and he doesn't have a clue. He can't turn left. That's this kind of joke going around the whole time, and it's David Bowie, probably one of the greatest cameos of all time, during like a sort of a face off with him and Owen Wilson. Can't describe it, but he's at the peak of his powers. Sorry, I've just created a movie voice. That's embarrassing. Um, it's just hilarious, and it's great. I mean, although it's Ben Stiller playing a really dumb guy, the script is actually really well done, and some of it's so over the top it works. You've got Will Ferrell as this like evil producer, and it's just got some of the greatest like moments in comedies. I mean, you know, when like architects, they have the small models of the buildings. He's
Yeah.
such a dumb model that when they show it him, he picks it up and destroys it. Says, "How are the children going to fit into here?" And it's just one of them where it's just timeless. I think whenever it's on TV, I'll watch it, and I'm really looking forward to the second one. However, with Dumb and Dumber 2, I'm not gonna get excited in case it's poor, but I really think they're gonna nail Zoolander 2, and I hope they do, because it's just one of my favourite films growing up, and it's almost like that family film where we'd all pour in and we'd all watch it together. And then buying it on DVD was a bad choice, because although we've got it whenever we want, it's quite hard to like pick out and choose it.
Yeah, and with Zoolander 2, you were talking about that it might be like Dumb and Dumber 2. Um, Sequels to films that have come out like 10 years ago or even 20 years ago, or whatever it is, they're always difficult to get right anyway, let alone comedy sequels. I think comedy sequels are probably the hardest thing to get right, and like with your other pick, like 22 Jump Street, I think that went in the right direction, making it self-referential and stuff. But we talked about the trailer for this, the teaser trailer that came out for Zoolander 2, and it got me interested in the film, so it's gonna make me check out the first Zoolander before the second one comes out because I do think I'll like it. I hope it's not one of those films that sort of when you watch it when you're younger, it's sort of like fresher and you get it more, and then say if you watch it when you're older, you might not connect with it more. I'm not a massive Ben Stiller fan, but I know that a lot of people really, really hold this film up as one of the best comedy films there is. It's definitely one I need to check out, and it'll probably be the film I check out next. I'll like see if I can get it on like if it's on Netflix or something, or like buy it or something. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. Interested to see the sequel, but definitely I've got to watch the first one before I go into that to sort of get the humor and understand the character.
Oh, definitely, it's one worth watching. I think it's kind of one that goes, "Oh, I finally seen this." I think with comedies, it's always nice to kind of run off the comedies because they're always crap or they're good. There's no middle ground of comedies. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, so I'll go on to my number four pick now. Um, It's a film. I'm not sure a lot of people have heard of it, but every now and then I think it's sort of achieved a cult status. Everyone sort of remembers it once you sort of break it down scene by scene. It's a film called Hot Shots Part Deux, starring Charlie Sheen. And this one, the first one, I think parodies Top Gun. And that's a really, really funny film as well. But I think that Hot Shots Part Deux is where it really hits its stride. This one parodies Rambo as well as a great many other films, but that's the main one it's focusing on. It's directed by Jim Abrams, and he was a co-director on films like Airplane with the Zucker brothers, and I think they did like Naked Gun and films like that. And it very much is in the style of that, and it's a style I absolutely love. It's like in every single scene, every single line is a joke. Like someone could be talking in the foreground and something could be happening in the background, or there could be like a comedic sign or something, or like a play on word or a pun or anything like that. And I love those moments because you're always constantly looking around. Even the credits of this film have like a running gag in it, and it says like at the bottom like who was the lighting technician of this film. There'll be a pop quiz next week or something like that. It's just little jokes like that I really love. It does get slapsticky in parts, does get pretty more complex humor in other parts, but it's fantastic. And Charlie Sheen, he just plays it so straight, and I think he's a brilliant comedic actor. And this came out in '93, so this was definitely in the time he was sort of bigger than. Well, I would still say he's big now, but probably more for the wrong reasons than he was at this time. It's a really just like fast-paced comedy film. Um, every joke hits. Some of the jokes may be a little bit dumb, but I watched this at the right time. I think it's definitely one everyone should check out. And I think that if you've seen like Rambo or the films that it's parodying, and I guess this goes with any sort of film parody film, you get the jokes more, and I think it sort of enhances your experience of it. But even if you haven't, I think it's still a solid watch, and it's one that everyone should see.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I have heard a lot of good things about that and the original.
Yeah. And
Um,
have you seen films like Airplane or Naked Gun and stuff like those other ones?
I haven't. Is Naked Gun the one with Steve Martin in it?
No, no. It's with Leslie Nielsen.
Oh right, no, I haven't seen it then. I've seen.
He's like a police detective or something, and he like falls into wacky shenanigans.
Oh right, I've heard of it, but it's just one of them I've never got around to.
Yeah, I'd definitely check it out. It's really, really good. If that's your style of comedy, obviously, like as I said, like comedy's all subjective. So, if the sort of slapsticky comedy thing isn't your thing, or like film parody stuff like that, then it probably won't be your thing. But it's worth checking out just to see, I think. And there's an actor in this as well who's on the team. He was on a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? I don't know if you saw that. It was a comedy improv TV show in America, and then we got a version as well. And he's brilliant as well in it.
I've heard of the TV show, but yeah. Um,
Even Rowan Atkinson shows up at the end of it as well.
oh, Mr. Bean almost made the list. It was close.
Did it? Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about that movie. Oh, see, this is what I mean. There's so many good ones that you just can't do it. But yeah, no, Rowan Atkinson's brilliant.
Oh no, I love him. Moving on to my number three. This is probably
Yeah,
the biggest cheat on the list. Uh, just like we do sort of Dark Knight trilogy, so I don't have the same top three. I've
yeah.
gone for the Cornetto trilogy purely.
Okay.
Although they're three separate films, it's it's spam in the face if I pick them. They are without a doubt Edgar Wright's finest work. He probably won't top them. Hot Fuzz's, who made the originals list, it's without a doubt one of the best comedies the past 20 years. I'd say. I don't know. You haven't seen very British humour. I mean, I think it's for a lot of Americans, although they've taken well to them. Simon Pegg's big over there now. Edgar Wright's big. Nick Frost has done one or two dabbles in the American film stuff. Some of them it's been massive for their careers, but the way they're written is just incredible, and they are all hilarious in their own right. And although they vaguely similar, there's similar threads in each one. There's always a kind of the guy that's right, the guy that's wrong, a bit of a loser type. The way they integrate them into the different films is incredibly different. I mean, the first one is Shaun of the Dead, which is the zombies. Second one's Hot Fuzz, the police. Third one's World's End, which is a pub crawl with alien invasion. They are without a doubt one of the crown jewels of British comedies, I'd say, and they're just hilarious. I mean, each time you go back to them, you pick up new things. The more you see it, the more you pick up how much of a genius the writing is between Wright and Pegg, and they're just great. I think a lot of people got issues with the World's End. It was very rushed. There's a lot of sort of behind the scenes stuff. One of the producers that was passed away, so there's a bit of a shame with that. But it's one of them where I don't think you've seen them, but they are without a doubt hilarious, and you can watch any of them. You'll have a good laugh. Shaun the Dead's a bit of a hard one because I think with all the Walking Dead stuff, the zombie stuff so much now. That was almost one of the first like intelligent parody films, if you know what I mean.
Mm. Yeah, and you sort of just hinted at there, like I haven't seen these films. You should see the expression on people's faces when I say that I haven't seen any of these movies, especially when it comes to Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, which I think everyone who loves these films will agree are probably the best ones out of the three. Yeah, they're just films that at the time I wasn't a big Simon Pegg fan. I think someone bought Hot Fuzz. You know, like when you're at school and it's like the last few days and people bring films and stuff like that. I think someone bought in Hot Fuzz, and it was like the first 10 minutes or so, and the comedy really just wasn't hitting with me. But I think at the time I wasn't as big into film as I am now, and I was sort of like, oh, Hot Fuzz, that's meant to be crap. I'm not interested, so I went into it with a bad attitude. But they are definitely films I need to see, especially Shaun of the Dead. But I'll let you have all three. I know that they're not. They are a trilogy of sorts in that they're made by the same person and they've got the same actor in them. But if I were to put like a gun to your head and say, right, you can only watch one of these movies,
Uh,
which one do you think you'd pick?
I'll be Hot Fuzz. I mean, 'cause obviously I said I'm not massive on the zombies, and I do love the sort of cop ones, as you can tell with Jump Street. But
Yeah.
Hot Fuzz is the best of the three by country mile. It's one of my favourite British films. Obviously, it's one of my favourite comedies, but purely this would have probably been positioned as three, five, and probably an honourable mention or something. So got him in very
Yeah.
high regard, and I didn't really want to spam it in. And that's the thing. Although it's the same writers, producers, cast, crew, all that sort of stuff. It ties through the cornetto, but there's so many similar themes across each film, the foreshadowing of events, stuff like that. There's a lot to it, and in all honesty, it's not really a fluke, but I kind of love the fact that Shaun of the Dead worked so well. Hot Fuzz was almost similar traits, and I think that the pressure with The World's End was people thought it'd have to tie in too much, and thankfully
Mm.
it didn't. I really like The World's End. It's very different for what it is. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's as strong as the other two, but I think that's when it's going to get more of a cult following. The third one for sure, but it's growing on me the more I see it, and it's just Martin Freeman getting him straight through to The Hobbit. Is fair play to them too.
Yeah, and Edgar Wright, like if he'd have gone on to direct Ant-Man like he was meant to, maybe would have got Simon Pegg as Hank Pym or as Stephen. Is it Stephen Lang? Is he the name of the Ant-Man?
Oh, Scott Lang.
Scott Lang, that's the one. Stephen Lang, who am I thinking? I'm probably thinking of an actor or something. I have no idea. But yeah, they're ones I need to check out, and that's it's just getting round to them. There's so many films I still need to see, and it's just slowly working my way through them. But I think I probably should hit some of the comedies as well, because as you said, they are meant to be great. And then my number three pick, it's sort of similar in that it is a zombie link between the two. This was a little film that came out in 2009 and is probably one of the smartest and most enjoyable comedy films I've seen in a long, long time. It still holds up, and that film is Zombieland. Um, yeah, this was a film that I'd seen the trailers for, and it looked exactly like my style of comedy. I think in the trailers that came up, it was showing you the whole rules coming up on the screen, and it was sort of like Scream and Cabin in the Woods. It was very much like self-aware of the genre and the rules and ways to survive and things like that. And I mean, you look at the cast as well. I mean, what a cast! Woody Harrelson is phenomenal in this film. His character's brilliant, and I love it that none of the characters actually have names. I think Emma Stone says her character name at the end of the film, but they're all named after states in America because no one wants to get attached to each other because of how dog eat dog the world is now. Zombies have took over, and Jesse Eisenberg as well. Like I may not like the idea of him being cast as Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman, but when he plays a character like this, when he plays the sort of whiny, nerdy character, I think he is really good, and that goes with like Michael Cera as well. Um, and ultimately, it is a really funny film. It's a really good comedy, but also there's moments where it takes itself seriously, and if you just took those scenes out of the film and watched them in their own regard, they could be like part of a serious film or something like that. Every single scene is fantastic. I love all of the comedy. It ultimately culminates into one of the most fun and outrageous action climaxes I think I've ever seen. The big sort of war on zombies in a theme park at the end. They're all on the fairground rides and everything like that. And it'd be a shame to leave out this moment of the film, which I was literally crying with laughter when I went to see this in the cinema. I think I saw this film like about 3 or 4 times in the cinema. I loved it that much. It's right next to Hugh Jackman from First Class as in one of the best cameos in any film I've ever seen. Bill Murray, the entire Bill Murray scene where they're in I think they're in Beverly Hills and they're trying to find a place to stay. They find this house, they break into it, it seems deserted, and then all of a sudden this zombie shambles out and it's Bill Murray, but it turns out he's actually in disguise. He's got like a wig and makeup on and he does it to blend in and carry on doing his daily routine. And I know I'm spoiling the hell out of this, so if people haven't seen this, I'm ruining one of the best moments in the film. Um, he says he's going to play a practical joke on Jesse Eisenberg's character, and he sort of goes into zombie mode, and Jesse Eisenberg thinks he's a real life zombie and shoots him, and then Bill Murray is playing Bill Murray, and then he just dies on screen. It's heartbreaking, but absolutely hilarious at the same time. One of the best scenes of the comedy I think I've ever seen, and the fact that it came right out of nowhere. It was never announced that he was in the movie or anything like that. So when a cameo can do that, that's the best like way it can come about is when you don't know about it. And yeah, Zombieland's still a film I go back and watch, whether it's at Halloween, whether I just need a good comedy to watch. It's fantastic, and I'd love to see. It's a real shame that we never got a sequel, because I think that this was a film that would have been absolutely perfect for a sequel. I know that TV show is meant to be coming out. I think they made a pilot for it. I saw the trailer. It looked awful. They recast the entire group, and these characters are the ones that you fall in love with, down to the performances from all the actors. So I'm hoping that we do eventually get a Zombieland 2, but if we don't, I still have an absolutely beyond solid, single film to watch.
Yeah, I mean, with Zombieland, I never really heard about it until my friend's like, no, no, you've got to watch this film, it's great. Saw it for the first time, I was just crying, it was brilliant. I mean, after that film, I actually went out of my way to find a Twinkie, which is kind of this,
Yeah,
to people
absolutely.
to people in England, we don't know what Twinkies are until we saw Zombieland, or just been to America, I don't know, I'd never had one. Um,
Mm.
but then with the Bill Murray, it just summed it all up when he's there, like, do you have any last regrets? And he's like, Garfield, maybe.
Yeah.
But I never expected it when he kind of came out and they were watching Ghostbusters and they just shoot him. It was so funny, and it's just the most like Bill and Murray thing you could do.
Yeah, and that one Ghostbuster scene is probably going to be better than the new Ghostbusters movie coming out.
Oh,
And it
oh
still had
definitely,
Bill Murray in it as well, in character.
definitely. But Zombieland is a great choice. To be fair, that made the 40. That made the
Yeah,
big
oh,
list.
well, I hope it did, especially a top 40, Jesus.
Oh no, don't worry, definitely love that film.
Yeah,
Moving on, my number two is an all-time classic.
right.
Um,
Hopefully I've seen this one.
you've definitely seen this one. I'm shocked it's at number two actually. It's Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, okay.
Um,
You might want to
I'm,
hold off
oh yeah,
talking loads on this.
I'm gonna hold off, but I'll basically say to you where last week I was like, yeah, I know my number one. I know it's always been
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber, and it's when I was going over them, I was there like, you know what? There is one better than it. Not the fact that I do love this film. Is one of the greatest comedies of all time. But I was just so shocked. But I was like, is it really second? I was like, you know what? I think it is to me. But then again, that's personal preference. But I'm gonna hold off into because we're gonna have a long discussion on it. I know that, but
Oh,
it, I
absolutely.
do love this film. I'm just again shocked it's at number two.
Yeah, we will. But I mean, number two is still nothing to be sniffed at. It's a great film, and we will definitely be talking about that one more as the list continues. So I'll jump into my number two. Again, I think this is sort of a cult comedy now. It's not one that I know that a particular lot of people have seen, especially out of my friendship group. So it's a bit difficult. This was directed by Jerry Zucker. Again, it's my style of comedy. It's Rat Race. Fantastic film. The concept alone is brilliant, but it's all down to the absolute all-star cast that's in this film. You've got John Cleese, Rowan Atkinson, Whoopi Goldberg, Cuba Gooding Jr., Seth Green, loads more as well. The story is about this wealthy billionaire is sort of putting this sick game together where he gets a group of people together in his casino and says that in Silver City, New Mexico, there's a locker in a train station with I forget the exact amount of money. It's like millions and millions of pounds. You all have a key to get into that locker. The first one there wins and gets to keep the money. Go. And that's the premise. And what ensues is the best film for like over the top comedy shenanigans, random set pieces. Everyone's fighting to get this money, and there's just so much that goes on in this movie. Every single character's brilliant. All like the sort of wacky misadventures they find themselves into in desperation to get this money is brilliant. There's probably my favourite scene of the film. I don't know if you've seen it. It's Seth Green is he wants to make he's with his brother and he wants to make a copy of the key so that both him and his brother have like a double the chance of getting there first. And the guy who's making the copy of the key overhears that there's loads of money in this locker, so he steals the key for himself and tries to get there himself via hot air balloon. And Seth Green's like driving the car to try and catch up with this hot air balloon that's taking off. The rope from the balloon snags round a cow because it's in a cow field, and then it's Seth Green dangling onto this cow, dangling onto this hot air balloon, and it's just like playing opera music in the background. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen this movie, I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of the best comedies of this sort of style. Zucker brothers proving once again they are some of the best comedy directors of all time, and you just have to check it out if you haven't seen it.
I haven't, unfortunately. I've heard of it, and I know it came out about 10, 15 years ago, but it's one of them where a lot of people have said things, but I think it's got a very niche cult following. Like a lot of comedies, to be fair, but it just sounded very interesting, actually, because I didn't really know what it was about till you explained it then.
It's a little bit of a slow burn. Like the first 10 minutes is sort of setting up your characters and the situation and everything. But when John Cleese, who plays the billionaire, when he sort of says, "Right, go," from that point onwards, it's fantastic. And Wayne Knight's in it as well, the guy from Jurassic Park, and I loved him in Jurassic Park, and he's brilliant in this as well. Definitely want to check out, just purely down to the cast alone. That everyone just absolute at their comedic best in this film.
Oh, yeah, it looks. I'm looking at a post now, and it kind of looks hilarious. The poster in itself.
And then this you're on to honourable mentions now, aren't you? I think
Yep.
for your number one pick.
So, honourable mention wise, I'm kind of. The first of all, I'm gonna say I said before that I struggled with fifth place, which was the Jump Streets, and one of those and Iron for a Good Day. I'm just gonna say straight away that was This Is the End, one of the funniest films I've
Mm.
ever seen. Most celebrity cameos. You see Michael Cera die. You see Rihanna die. You see plenty of people you're gonna hate die. It's brilliant. The whole film is hilarious. And
And the
it's,
less said about Channing Tatum, the better in that film.
oh,
You forgot that celebrity cameo.
do you know what I mean?
That was a cameo for the ages.
They were everywhere, but it was brilliant. I remember I was crying when I saw it at the cinema, and they're not going to do another, but if they did do it, so it was
Yeah.
great, and it's just how they over the top parodying themselves, and it was brilliant. There's so much time that it's just a
Mm.
shame that this was five because we could easily have 30. Um, the next one was Step Brothers again. That was kind of moving into. I saw that I think when I was like 13, 14. I was like, "Oh, this is hilarious." Then the more you see it, the more you like it. With this, Will Ferrell, I like him in a few things. He's very, I think, hit and miss. You either love him in one film or you hate him in the next. Luckily, I like him in most of it, but Step Brothers is brilliant. And then it introduced me to John C. Reilly, who is the star
Mm.
player of this film. He is brilliant, especially with the sort of drum kit stuff. Well, I just loved it. I had a great time seeing that for the first time. And
Also made every Star Wars fan want a Chewbacca mask if they didn't have one already.
I know it was all of it though. Every bit of the film is when they come in their Star Wars T-shirts at the very beginning as well, and then they're like best mates. And I think it was just like a really fun film, and it shows our parents and my dad liked it, my mum hated it, which was standard. But it was just one of them where it got a really big cult following. They don't need to do a second one at all. It had a nice ending because there was talk
Mm.
of it. I really hope they don't. The third one's Horrible Bosses, and I was incredibly shocked.
Oh, brilliant film.
I was shocked it made it this high because there's a lot of funny films. But when I saw it for the first time, I was shocked. Friends is my all-time favourite sitcom. I'm a massive fan of sitcoms. Jennifer Aniston doing something else than being Rachel was actually hilarious, and she's great in it. Kevin Spacey was incredible. Colin Farrell was brilliant. Then you had
Oh yeah.
Charlie Day wasn't too annoying for once, and I had a great time watching this film. And I haven't seen the second one. I kind of want to, although it's meant to be horrific. But even like Jamie Foxx in it, it's just a brilliant comedy. But again, doing comedies is hard. You love them or you hate them. But there's so many ones I like. It's just top of my head, things like Borat, Ali
Mm.
G. I don't know, Lethal Weapon, which I forgot about. There's just so many. It was almost an impossible list compared to the comic book films that we all know we love.
Yeah, and I was actually going to suggest that we do like five honorable mentions, but we could easily do more with this list. But going back to Horrible Bosses, this was again from the same mate that recommended 21 Jump Street, so I should probably listen to him more in terms of comedies. Horrible Bosses, I absolutely loved it. It was a film I'd only heard of sort of in like briefly, just the title. I knew nothing about it. He just said you've got to watch this movie, put it on. And just from the cast alone, Jason Bateman is brilliant. I'm a big fan of the series Arrested Development. I don't
Hmm.
know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I love it.
He's yeah, he's brilliant in that, and he's almost playing exactly the same character in this one as well. Charlie Day, I know I can totally see why people may find him annoying. I completely get that, but I just think he's bloody hilarious. I'm a big fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Again, he's almost playing the same character in this, and the same character he played in Lego Movie as 1980 something space guy. I just love when he goes into like that zany, screaming, over the top mode. I know that people may find that annoying, but I think he's brilliant. You mentioned Jennifer Aniston as well, but also and Colin Farrell as well, just completely over the top and hamming it up, but he's brilliant. And Kevin Goddamn Spacey, who is one of the finest actors there is, and he's played the absolute most despicable bastard in this film, and he's brilliant. I love Kevin Spacey. You said you haven't seen the sequel. It's really honestly not as good as the first one, which I think everyone was expecting, but it's not like an awful movie. Like I don't regret seeing it, but going from the first one, because I think I watched this one a few days before the second one came out, so it was
Ah,
kind of
right.
a weird time to watch it. And then I went to see the second one. The same mate wanted to go and see it. We both enjoyed it, but it's probably not one I'll go back and watch again. But Horrible Bosses, the first one, is one that I watch anytime. It'll be one I definitely go back to, and it is probably one of the best examples of one of the best modern comedies there is. I think it came out. Yeah, I've got the page up here, 2011. So yeah, absolute great cast in that. Right, I'll run down my honourable mentions. I'm going to cheat on this one too. Like you did with the Cornetto trilogy, you had three films in one place. I've sort of got three on this one, but I may bump it to a four. It's the scary movie films. Most notably one and two, but I also really like three. Four wasn't as good, and I'm not even counting five because that was just garbage. Um, and again, you see, like scary movie films are like held up there as probably some of the worst comedy films. I know a lot of people really don't like this style, and I will agree that it was ran into the ground by other directors that were trying to capture the essence of this film with films like Epic Movie, Date Movie, Superhero Movie, Meet the Spartans, all that stuff. But I watched Scary Movie 1 when I was really young. I must have been about. When did it come out? I think it came out late 9. I think it came out early 2000s actually, because Scream was a late 90s film, I think. And the first Scary Movie is like more or less completely spoofed Scream. The second one is House on Haunted Hill with a bit of The Exorcist. Um, and I just find them hilarious. They're still films I watch now. Very recently, I watched Scary Movie 2 with my mate. They're probably not good movies, but it's just that right style of stupid comedy. And I'll be honest that I like some really, really stupid comedy films. I even like the film Norbit, for example. And I know a lot of people hate that movie. It didn't make the cut, but
I love Norbit.
just like an example of that. Yeah, and I think that this was still done in the time when these parody films were fresh and they worked and the comedy was good in them. And I think that was honestly down to the cast. Like you had Anna Faris, who's a really, really fun comedic actress. You had the Wayans brothers in there. Who else am I forgetting? And then in the second one, you had David Cross and Tim Curry was in there. And it was and the best bit, without a question of a doubt, is in the start of the second one, the opening scene, Scary Movie 2, which parodies The Exorcist, where you've got James Woods who plays one of the priests. Me and my friend absolutely just cry with laughter still at that scene. So, sort of the Scary Movie films, I'll group the first four together, but the first two are definitely the strongest entries in the series. My next one is The Nutty Professor. I was deciding whether to put this one on or another film on my list, which was going to be the Austin Powers trilogy. But when I think about it, I probably haven't watched the Austin Powers trilogy in well over 5 years or even more. I loved them when they came out, but I've sort of seen bits of the Austin Powers films that just the humor doesn't hit as strongly now as it did when I first saw them. But when I thought of Nutty Professor, there's a scene in it in particular which, if it isn't the dinner scene with the whole family, it's the scene where Eddie Murphy goes to the club, and it's after he's taken the potion to turn him into Buddy Love, and he sort of gets his revenge on the comedian that insulted him the first time round when he was fat. That scene I could just watch on loop like the whole day, and it's still hilarious. Whenever Nutty Professor comes on the TV, regardless of whereabouts it is in the film, it'll always be a film I just watch from wherever it's at, just watch it through to the end. The comedy's brilliant. I know a lot of people don't like this sort of era of Eddie Murphy. They much prefer him in like the Beverly Hills Cop days, Trading Places and things like that. And I get that, but I think that even in Nutty Professor, and even sort of Nutty Professor 2 as well, but this is mostly just the first one, his comedy was really sharp. How he plays every single member of the family is brilliant to watch. The makeup's fantastic as well, so props to them for that. But just the dinner scene as well. Like every character, like I can watch that dinner scene over and over again. In fact, I watched it about a day ago while I was at work. I was just watching that scene. I was just cracking up. So Nutty Professor, and then last, and I'm looking at my list here, and I've got two films here level pegging with each other. I like these films almost equally, so I need to pick one out of them. And if I had to pick, I would probably pick South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. It's right next to Team America, World Police. As I say, I love both these films equally. But if I think back to it, I think I probably laughed the most at South Park. I never got into the TV show all that much, and I think actually my first sort of entry into the South Park universe was from this movie. Um, and just the fact that it was a musical as well, I think that completely broadsided everyone. Like no one was expecting that, and then when it opens with this sort of big, epic, almost Disney-like music number, and then you just sort of on board for it for like the rest of the movie, and the other songs are hilarious. I forgot the names, but there's Trey Parker and there's the other dude who I feel really bad for
Matt
forgetting his
Stone.
name. Matt Stone, that's the one. You know, they do, their comedy is just absolutely on point, and it is in this film. The character of Satan and Saddam Hussein, they still crack me up now. And Terrence and Philip, with the when they go and see Asses of Fire, that scene alone, it just completely sets the stage for it. You know that when they made this film, as the film says, bigger, longer, and uncut, they almost had complete free reign with this movie. And boy, does it show in the language and the sexual references and stuff like that. But it's all good, and it's fantastic. As I say, it was a hard decision to pick between this and Team America, but if I'm counting total of laughs, it would probably be from South Park.
It's a very wise choice.
Yeah. So we're getting on to number ones now. So you go first. I actually have an idea of what your number one might be, judging by the sound of your voice. But George, take it away. What is your number one favorite comedy film of all time?
South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really didn't think you were going to say it then, and then you brought it up the end. I was like, oh, I'm just going to try not to speak and let you pretend that I didn't hear it. But
Yeah.
this
Go for it.
this is a film. I'm just going to talk through South Park. I was introduced to the TV show by my dad at the age of about 4. So
Nice.
I have grown
Doing it
up.
right.
I've grown up with it. Always, I'm not offended by anything because of South Park. It's done a lot of good in my life. I
Yep.
think buying this film, when was it when I first saw it? I saw it in '06. It was Boxing Day. I went to FOP when there were loads of FOPs around, and I went to tell the guys like you can't buy this. You know, 15 was like, oh okay. So I was, oh, what tell the guys, Dad, can you buy South Park? He goes, yeah, of course. And then obviously that's how I saw that Boxing Day 2006. I won't ever forget it because obviously the first bits when they rejected cinema tickets, I was like, hey, it's me at the shop earlier.
Yeah.
But it's without a doubt. I mean, those two they do satire like no one else. I know it's kind of the series, but as a film, they didn't just make it 3 episodes. Although it says bigger, longer, and uncut, they obliterated it. It's the best musical I've ever heard in my life. It's
Mm.
without the best writing. I mean, you're talking about the Saddam Hussein stuff. Him and Satan were just hilarious as a couple. I mean, I would have loved to have been in 1999 or 8 when this came out. So I've forgotten the year, but it was one of them where It's just brilliant. Every time I watch it, I piss myself laughing. It's great. It's better than all the episodes they've ever done. That's the more important bit. It's always embarrassing when a TV
Mm.
show's got a better thing than the film, but they top themselves. And they were talking about Team America as well as slightly. They've got the same unique brand of humor. Even in the sport film Basketball, they did together. They even took the Carmen voice in there. The fact that I've been talking about this film, I haven't actually got into the characters yet as well. It's just mental. It's just brilliant, the whole thing. I mean, the fact that I was watching this at a really young age is poor in itself, but it doesn't matter because I haven't grown up to be a psychopathic killer. I've just grown up not being offended by anything, and that's the best bit about South Park in itself. But it's just every single time, if you want to be cheered up, I just put South Park on. I know I said I was thinking Dumb and Dumber, but it was one of them
Mm.
when it got to the list, it's like, you know what, South Park, I can watch it more and more. Dumb and Dumber, I love it as much as I can. It's a feel good film, but South Park, anytime, any place, any year, South Park will go on. And it's just one of the greatest comedies of all time, one of the smartest writing duos we're ever going to see, and it's going to be a shame the day when South Park finishes on TV.
Yeah, and with South Park the movie as well, as I said, like I hadn't like really watched the TV show before. I was familiar with the characters and the whole like You Killed Kenny and Mr. Mackey and the chef and stuff like that. I was aware of that, but hadn't really sat down and watched the show. But I think even if you haven't watched the show and you're interested in seeing this movie, I think that the film still does a good job of just sort of getting you used to this world and the characters and their individual personalities and stuff like that. I mean, this was my introduction, my proper introduction to South Park, and it's fantastic. I think you can watch it as a film on its own, even if you don't get into the series, although the series is fantastic. I remember in one episode now that was poking fun at how bad Indiana Jones 4 was, which is still probably one of my favourite South Park episodes. But yeah, the movie, there's so many moments to mention, as I said, like Terrence and Phillip. Some of the songs in there, like It's Easy MK, and then Satan gets a song as well. It's a brilliant, brilliant film. It's actually a film I haven't watched for quite some time, but I think I got it from I've got it on VHS. I can see it right now on my video shelf. It's I think I got it from the pound shop actually. It was like in a really sort of cheap cardboard slipcase. I must have wore that tape out. I used to watch it all the goddamn time to the point where when you watch something a few too many times and you get to the stage where it's like I love it still, but I really don't need to see it because I can basically play the film back in my head anyway.
Yeah,
But it has been quite a few years since I've watched it, so it's one. My mate also loved it as well. I think I introduced him to the film as well. He watched it the other week. He said he was crying again. Like it's still so funny. So I definitely need to go back and watch it. It's kind of weird that South Park they haven't done a movie again. It's like the Simpsons movie. They're like huge cartoon franchises, but I don't know whether they're tied up with the TV show and scheduling and other projects they're doing and stuff like that. But I think it would be good to see another South Park. Although I do think that tastes in comedy have changed, and I don't know how easily it would be to get a film made like that and get it past all the censors and not offending people and stuff like that. You know how it is nowadays with stuff like that. So I don't know, but I would like to see a sequel if they ever do get around to one.
yeah. It was actually on the news. I think last year, two companies traded rights for something, and one of them moving apart. I think South Park rights have now gone to Warner Bros. Unless it was at Warner Bros, it's gone to Universal or something like that. Anyway,
Mm.
but that was talk then. But I think with the two writers, they did the Book of Mormon. That sort of that's been massive in the theatre. So fair play to that.
Mm.
With the TV series now, they said it's been going just almost 20 years, and they've said for the past probably 4 or 5 years they've done 10 episodes a season. They said I'd much rather have 10 good episodes a year than 20 and have 10 poor ones, 10 good ones. So, and then I think they're doing video games. I mean, they're one of the best RPGs of all time
Oh yeah.
last year, and they're getting a new one coming out. I think early next year or the late this year. I'm not sure when, but it's one of them where I think with the games you're kind of getting your 10-hour South Park films rather than the 2 hour. But I would not be surprised if they do announce a South Park film in the next few years.
Yeah, and I would absolutely love to like jump into the TV series and sort of watch it from season one, but it'd be sort of be like going, I've never seen The Simpsons before, right? I'm gonna start watching The Simpsons. You are gonna be there for like goddamn years working your way through all those season box sets. So I don't know. They're on the TV quite a lot. You catch the odd episode, stuff like that. But it would be eventually a series I'd like to try and take on and try and get all of them watched because I think it'd be worth it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I did it, it was one of them. It was always on TV and stuff. And there was one summer where I sat down and said, I'm going to watch every single one So although I've already seen them all, I know that I've seen them all, and it
Mm.
was without a doubt one of the greatest 3 months. It was kind of like one breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if you know what I mean. It was like
Yeah.
three, four a day, and when it finished, I was kind of really upset with myself because I was just, oh, I want more South Park, but I can't get it. But their Game of Thrones trilogy parody was incredible.
Oh, they've done a Game of Thrones one. Oh, I've
Yeah,
got to watch it now.
it was
Oh, that sounds brilliant.
it was the Game of Thrones slash Black Friday slash PS4 and Xbox One releases, and it just picture it was just crazy.
Oh, I'll have to check that out then. I'll get round to it, but I'm working. There's so many like films and TV shows. It's crazy to get it all in line. So I'll add that to the list. Or like what 20 seasons or whatever they're on now. If you said it's been running for 20 years, a season per year
Pretty much.
or something like that.
It's a good few hundred episodes now, but it's just one of them where each one's different. You'll laugh every episode. It's one of the few animated shows. I mean, with Simpsons kind of peaked in the mid to late 90s, and it's
Oh,
really died
definitely,
down
yeah.
now. They need to call it a day where a South Park, them 10 episodes everyone watches. And it's as well, they rely off modern stuff. I mean, when Disney bought Star Wars, it was, I think, the same 2 weeks as the American vote to get Obama back.
Mm.
And they just had this incredible episode where it was like the Cartman fixed the whole election, and by rigging the election for Obama to win, uh, they would then be given the rights to Disney and sell them on to the Chinese. It was literally just this. Then like Mickey Mouse came out the Millennium Falcon and just styled them. It was literally just like bonkers, but it was incredible.
It is amazing how quickly they can get it written with like modern things. And you're right, like because obviously there's always going to be something to like satire or have news on. It is a show that now could keep going and going. And I think when South Park started out, I don't know whether it did follow that satire as much. I think that might be a new thing that they start, like new direction they're going with the series. But it's working for it. Their comedy's brilliant, and I will get round to watching it. But just sort of bringing it back to your list, the movie itself is brilliant and one that everyone should watch. If you get offended easily, I would probably say stay away from it. But I embrace all kinds of comedy, and like you said, like you watched this when you were really young. I was like exactly the same. I'd watch stuff that was I shouldn't be watching, but I did anyway, and we've turned out fine. And I think that people should sort of have faith more in like their kids and stuff, and show them stuff like this. Like I think it's fine. I think if you tell, I'm really big on that. I think that kids should be shown stuff like that, but definitely South Park the movie, one of the best comedy films there is. And then I'll move on to my number one, and it's sort of no surprise at this part I said I'd be talking about Dumb and Dumber. I haven't talked about it yet, so my number one comedy film of all time is Dumb and Dumber. What can I say about this movie? 1994 it came out. This, as I said, like with Ace Ventura and stuff, this was one of the big four movies that Jim Carrey did that year that propelled him into absolute stardom. It is the best road buddy comedy movie there is, and this was when the Farley brothers were brilliant and on top of their game. After this film, they always tried to sort of recapture the magic from this one, I think, and they've never really had a strong hit. Definitely not on the same level as this. Um, Dumb and Dumber is a comedy film where I think personally every single joke hits, and it's not just down to the fact that Jim Carrey was brilliant and one of my favourite comedic actors. It's just that the comedy is so hilarious. This was a movie really geared towards like teenage boys, I would say. It's that kind of humour to it, and I watched this from a very young age as well. Um, on video, I had the theatrical version as well, and like since then, like I did with Ace Ventura when I finally got it on DVD from after having it recorded off the TV. It was like rediscovering it again. I own both versions of Dumb and Dumber. There was the theatrical version, which is the one I sort of got used to the most, and then there's an uncut version, which sort of extends a few scenes. It gets a bit more sort of raunchy in parts and stuff like that. I love both versions, but I think if I had to go with one, it would be the theatrical. Um, and what a cast as well! Like, not only do you have Jim Carrey, but you have Jeff Daniels as well. And Jeff Daniels has since gone on, and like we've seen him in more serious roles. So it really does go to show what a fantastic actor he is. But just their comedic chemistry between each other in this film, they play off each other so well. I don't even know what else I can say about this movie, and the soundtrack as well. Rundgren did the music. He does a song in it towards the end, and he did the score throughout it all. Everything just works in this movie, and I've got a mate who's big into Jim Carrey films as well. He's a huge Jim Carrey fan, and this is his favorite comedy film of all time. And we still quote lines from this. We could basically like just set a recorder down in the middle between us and just like quote the entire film. It's that good. And you know, when the sequel's rolling round, when it was announced originally, I was really excited for it. I was thinking, yeah, we're going to get a sequel, and then I sort of took a step back and went, well, hang on. Dumb and Dumber is my favourite comedy film of all time. I know nothing is going to top that, but maybe it'll still be good in its own right. And I don't know if you saw Dumb and Dumber 2. I watched it. It's not a good movie, but it did have its moments where it made me chuckle. It does very much play up nostalgia, so that's probably some of the reasons I liked it. But I think it was just down to seeing Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels again back together. I mean, it was a bit awkward now they're older. Like the comedy wasn't sort of as hard hitting as it was when they were doing it, 20 years ago and stuff like that. But I think they knew that, and I think the directors knew that, and it seemed very much just like a reunion piece. A lot of the jokes really, really didn't hit, and it wasn't as tightly written as the first one was. But when it it had its moments, and when it hit, it really did hit as well. But the first one, absolutely brilliant. One of the best road buddy movies there is. In fact, it is the best, I would say. And just to see sort of this adventure they go on. I haven't even got into the plot yet. If you've never seen this film, Jim Carrey is sort of like a cab driver, and he drives this woman called Mary Swanson to the airport, and she leaves her briefcase there, and he sort of, because he just instantly falls in love with her because she talked to him, he goes on this epic sort of road quest with his buddy to deliver this briefcase back to her, and then they find that there's loads of money in the suitcase, and it was actually sort of payment to these gangsters, and this whole like crime plot that it goes into. But it's just brilliant to see what they get up to. The car they drive is this huge van decked out as this sheepdog. I'm actually trying to think of my favourite scene from the movie, but there are so many good scenes. I don't know if I could. And also, there's this one moment where they have to go dressed up smart, and Jim Carrey's in a bright orange suit with cane and top hat, and Jeff Daniels is in a bright blue one. At some point in my life, I want to go to some kind of formal event in that orange suit. I can't even think of a favourite scene. I love them all. There's a dream sequence that Jim Carrey has when he's driving, so that would probably be my favourite one. He like has this kung fu fight in this restaurant and rips a guy's heart out. There's so many scenes I can't even begin to talk about. I probably can't even. I probably do have a favourite scene and just forgot it. If you haven't seen Dumb and Dumber, check it out. I will completely understand that it won't be to everyone's taste, but if you love Jim Carrey, I would expect that you've probably seen this movie anyway. Ignore the prequel that came out in 2003, Dumb and Dumberer. Just that didn't happen, and even Dumb and Dumber 2, which came out last year, completely ignores that happened. Check out this one. It's a brilliant film, great standalone movie, and it's definitely, I would say, Jim Carrey's best.
Oh, it's an absolute classic, and I think favourite scene wise, it's one of the really hard ones. But the standout for me has always been the blind kid. And
Oh, yeah.
so it's just that like pretty bird, Patty want a cracker, pretty bird. Oh, I can't get over it. Every time I see it, I almost cry, and it's so bad. And I didn't watch the second one because I was so excited for it. And then the first trailer was like, ooh, and then
Yeah.
the reviews came, and then I was like, okay, that's reviews. Then it was audience reaction. I was like, nah, I've got to not watch it. It's too much, and that just kind of killed me because when they announced it, I remember Jim Carrey saying, "I'm not going to sign on to a Dumb and Dumber sequel unless it's any good."
Mm.
And originally they had a script written, and then they both left saying, this wasn't funny. We want a funny one. Then they rebuilt it. I thought, okay, this is going to be brilliant. They've quit and come back, and then it was crap. And I was like, forget it. I'm not going to watch this. I still won't. My sister, again, this is probably like as our family, this is one of the ultimate family films we've had over our lives. My
Mm.
sister was on a plane to New York, and I think when you do long flights, they show the films, and she turned off after 20 minutes because she said it was making her hate the original. So I
Mm.
couldn't bear the second one, but you got to forget about it because the first one is one of the best comedies of all time.
Yeah, and you were talking about your favourite scenes, the one with the blind kid with the bird. Roger Ebert, I think, gave a review to this film, and I don't think he gave it a particularly great one. He was saying that a lot of the comedy was in bad taste, but he said that he still just was crying laughing at that scene with the blind kid and the bird, and it is a great scene as well. And it's not just like the set pieces that are hilarious. There's little sort of lines they say, and they say it's so deadpan, and because these characters are so dumb, you just crack up laughing. Oh my god, I've just remembered my favourite scene. How did I forget this? It's the scene with Jeff Daniels on the toilet. It's it's like usually like fart jokes and stuff like that are just like really dumb. You just kind of roll your eyes at them. But this film also has the best example of how to do a fart joke right. Um, a little bit of context for the scene. Jim Carrey sees Jeff Daniels with Mary, and as I said, like Jim Carrey absolutely loves this girl, and he thinks his friends betrayed him. So when he knows that Jeff Daniels has got a date with her, he pours a full bottle of laxatives into his tea, and then you can pretty much guess what happens then. It's just everything, the sound effects, his performance in that scene, fantastic. I love Jeff Daniels to death, and in this is definitely one of his best. And as I said, like with his serious roles, it just goes to show how good he is. Like even in the sequel, the characters, although they hadn't played these guys for like 20 years, they just like snapped back straight into these characters. With the sequel, what it was is it wasn't as good a story or tightly written script, and a lot of the jokes start to fall flat, and like there's a lot of clangers that drop that just aren't funny. More gross out comedy, which I think the Farley brothers moved into after this. This does have like a few gross out scenes in it, but I think that the comedy alongside that is strong enough to support it, whereas the sequel it kind of relies on it a bit more. I don't regret seeing the sequel. I probably won't watch it again, but it wasn't like an Indiana Jones 4 moment, like where it made me just look back at the originals and just sob like, what have they done to you? Like this has completely ruined the series. Um, it just makes you appreciate the first one more and just kind of go, oh, that was a fun outing with the characters again. I'm gonna go back to the first one. That's just what it was, really.
All right. I still think there's other films I'd rather see.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Um,
like I wouldn't like actively recommend going to see the second one. Just stick with the first one. But if you're curious, it's not going to make you hate the first one even more. Sort of like make you depressed that they've ruined it. It's just sort of just not a good comedy.
all right.
And it's a shame because Jim Carrey, with his career, he sort of moved into serious acting more, which at the time I kind of resisted. And then I watch films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and you really do get a sense of the range that this guy has, just like Jeff Daniels. Um, but I did think it was time that he sort of got back into comedy more, and we sort of saw a glimmer with it in Kick-Ass 2,
Mm.
and then that whole thing came out with that he wasn't endorsing the movie because he didn't agree with the material in it, which kind of made you go, oh, well then, why did you do the movie? You knew exactly what material was in it. And then when he was announced in this, I thought, okay, this is finally Jim Carrey's sort of step back into comedy and all that stuff. And I don't think it quite achieved what they wanted it to. The film wasn't that great, so I don't know whether that's going to make him shy away from comedies and stuff. But Jim Carrey is just an actor that I would love to see sort of get back into like popularity and start hitting it out of the park with some decent comedies.
Oh, definitely. He's just an actor where he dipped off for too long, and I think Kick-Ass, I liked it. I've got a lot of stuff to say about that. Him pulling out of advertising that clearly affected the film's grossing, but that's for another talk because I was really ashamed of him on that one. But it's just one of them. If he can do some films, I was just a bit, I think, pissed off the fact that him and Jeff Daniels both left saying, the script was poor for two, but then to come back, you expect a good script if they're coming back for it. But clearly, there was probably money met and they took it. But I do want him to start doing some more comedies. Whether he does or not, I don't know. He seems pretty comfortable now. He's got his millions, but if he would do a return, it'd be great.
Oh, definitely, and I hope we get one in a few years and he comes back strong. But until then, we'll have all his other films: Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, The Mask, and all that stuff. And as I said, my number one pick, definitely Dumb and Dumber, one to watch. And now we're going to move on to our regular segment of film fights. How film fights works is we take a characters, people, situations, or whatever from either our news section or our main review section, and we pit them together in a fun what-if fight and see who comes out the victor. And on today's film fights, we're going to have a fight in honour of Wes Craven. We're going to have who would win in a fight between Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street versus Ghostface from the Scream series. I'm going to let you kick off first with this one if you want. I know you're not big into horror, but I know you're familiar with these characters and sort of their shtick, so who do you think would win in a fight?
I'm going to pick. Oh my god, I forgot his name. What the hell?
Freddy
Uh,
Krueger, Ghostface.
yeah, I
Yeah,
was going to pick Freddy Krueger, although I've never seen it. However, I know that he's in their dreams and he comes in and he kills them and he rips apart their guts and everything. And I just think that Ghostface is just some teenage lad. He's going to be sleeping. Freddy Krueger's going to kill him. It's done.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually going to check for a picture of Freddy Krueger now because I want to make sure I get this right as to how many knives he has on that glove. I want to say 4. I don't think he has. Okay, 5 knives.
Yeah,
I
it's
think. Okay.
I was at a convention I think 2-3 weeks ago and Robert England was there who played him, and obviously I've never seen them. The friend I was with was getting his stuff signed and the queue was mental. There's so many Freddy Krueger stuff. It was pretty cool, though I haven't seen it. It's one of them characters I know so much about, but yeah, I think he's going to obliterate Ghostface.
Hmm. Oh, okay, he has 4 knives. I don't want some like angry fanboy to like drop as a comment just saying like, well, actually Freddy Krueger has 4, you know. But yeah, my argument was going to be that Ghostface has a knife. That's his shtick. He has a knife, he stabs people. Freddy Krueger has 4 knives on his hand. So he's going to do, 4 times the damage. And also, exactly what you just said. Freddy Krueger infects people's dreams and kills them in their dream. So I don't care how proficient a killer Ghostface is from Scream, Freddy Krueger, as soon as that killer goes to sleep, because they are ultimately an actual person, not like a physical entity like Freddy Krueger is, they're going to go to sleep. Freddy Krueger's going to just find them in their dream and kill them. And Ghostface may put up a fight. We know that it's like sort of like the typical horror trope that the killer can always teleport like at supernatural rates. Like they'll be in a position, someone will look away, turn back, and they're gone, and they're like halfway across the map or something. But I think Freddy wins this hands down. If anything, he's dead already, and we see. Well, I know you haven't seen them, but in the Nightmare on Elm Street, I was going to say Nightmare Before Christmas movies then. Nightmare on Elm Street movies, we see people try to attack him in his dream or like inflict damage on him. It just doesn't work. I mean, they might kill him at the end of one film, he comes right back for the sequel. So I think that Freddy Krueger pretty much wins this hands down, and just on like a personal preference, he's definitely the most iconic horror mascot out of the two of them anyway.
Oh, it's everything from the burnt faces to the gloves to the stripy top. He's just brilliant. Although Ghostface, you're a great Halloween outfit for under 12s, but Freddy Krueger, when you see a Freddy Krueger guy, he looks incredible.
Yeah, and I know that both of these characters, Ghostface more so from like Scary Movie and stuff like that, and Freddy Krueger just sort of as the sequels went on, both got more and more comedic to the point where they weren't as threatening. But if we go from like, even with just Freddy from the first movie against Ghostface from the first Scream movie, he still wins this hands down. So our walkaway winner this week, Freddy Krueger, wins this fight between the two of them. It's not very often we get a walkaway winner actually. Most of us have different opinion, and that's fine, and we have a draw, but it's always good when we get a walkaway winner, and Freddy Krueger is definitely a worthy winner for this week. So yeah, that's really our main show for this week. Be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your favourite comedy movie, or who you think would win in a fight between Freddy Krueger, Ghostface.
Recommended movie.
Oh my god, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, recommended movie. And this is my pick for this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what? Okay, I was going to give you the choice. I was either going to say Rat Race or something else, but you know what? I haven't seen the Cornetto trilogy, so I would like to watch one of the movies from this, and I'm going to let you decide which one we pick. Do we go in order and watch Shaun of the Dead first, or do we go with the best one that you said, Hot Fuzz?
Oh, I've not seen Hot Fuzz in approximately 3 years, so I'm going to pick Hot Fuzz.
Right, we'll go for Hot Fuzz then. I'll probably watch Shaun of the Dead before that anyway. I know that they don't follow on from each other. I know they're completely separate, but I'm weird like that with sort of vague trilogies and stuff. I always watch them in order. But yeah, I think it's about time that I get these films watched, so we'll do Hot Fuzz for Film Club this week. Right, now I can round it off. Be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe. As I said, let us know what your favourite comedy film is. Let us know who you think would win in the fight between Freddy Krueger and Ghostface. All of that stuff, all your thoughts on the news. Are you looking forward to all the trailers that are coming out, like Macbeth and The Martian? Let us know in the comments below. You can follow us also at Facebook, at facebook.com/cinema7. Savvy. We're on Twitter at cinema_savvy, and we're also on Letterboxd, where you can find our list of films that we've done, and it's like a really just easy to view list of all the films that we've done in like the film club as well as the main show, and that is at letterboxd.com/cinema_savvy. So be sure to come back later in the week where we'll have our review for Hot Fuzz, and our main show next week, which I'm not sure what exactly is. Is it a Legend? Is it the new Tom Hardy film that comes out next week?
We haven't got anything for next week.
We haven't got. Oh, okay. We'll find something, I'm sure, like this week. So if it's not another top 10 list, it'll be something else. We'll find something. So until then, thank you very much for listening.